Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that every bank on earth is gone. No ATMs, no credit cards, no online transfers, the numbers in your account, just pixels with no meaning. In a world built entirely on trust in invisible money, what happens when that trust vanishes overnight? Commerce freezes. Salaries stop. Even governments lose the ability to move wealth. But something else begins to stir. A return to barter, to power built on what you physically own, not what a database says you do. Because without banks, money doesn't disappear. It mutates. And what replaces it reveals what our financial system truly was, all along not an economy of value, but an empire of belief. It began long before skyscrapers and credit cards, long before glowing screens showed balances and transactions. It began with something simple: trust. When merchants in ancient cities needed a safe place to store gold, they turned to those with strong vaults and stronger reputations. These early bankers held treasure for safekeeping and issued paper receipts that stood in for real coins. Over time, those pieces of paper became just as valuable as the gold itself. People stopped asking for what was inside the vault and began trading the promise instead. By the Renaissance, ledgers filled with handwritten numbers replaced piles of metal. A banker's signature carried more weight than a chest of coins. Wealth had become an idea, not an object. And with that transformation, a new kind of power was born: the ability to create money from belief. Banks stopped merely storing value, they began manufacturing it. Every loan became a promise for tomorrow's prosperity, built on confidence that the system would keep its word. In doing so, they turned trust into currency. Credit was not just a convenience, it was civilization's heartbeat. But that heartbeat came with a paradox. The more efficient the system became, the less visible it was. The vault doors closed, and behind them, money ceased to be something tangible. It became numbers on screens, agreements encoded in light. The world's most powerful institutions no longer held gold. They held confidence. Every purchase, every paycheck, every mortgage is built on that same invisible architecture. An unspoken agreement that the system will not fail. The more we trusted banks, the less we understood them. So what happens when the heart that pumps our economy suddenly stops beating? If this is giving you perspective, pause for a second and subscribe, so you never miss the lessons history is trying to teach again. It starts in silence. The morning feels normal. The streets are busy. The market's open. Then a single notification flashes across millions of screens. System error. Please try again. At first, people laugh. A glitch, they think. They refresh their banking apps, insert their cards again, wait for the familiar hum of an ATM. Nothing. The screen stays dark. The machines are dead. Panic spreads quietly at first, like a whisper passed between strangers. Then it grows louder. Within hours, the world begins to seize. Payments stop processing. Wages can't be transferred. Companies can't pay their suppliers. Governments issue calm statements, but they are powerless. The arteries of global finance have stopped pumping. In the grocery stores, shelves remain full, but registers refuse to open. Card readers blink without response. Gas stations close. The flow of everyday life collapses into stillness. Planes sit idle on runways, waiting for clearances that will never come. Ships filled with goods drift without destination. The entire economy, once a seamless web of movement, has frozen in place. Trading floors are empty. Stock tickers flatline. The sound of commerce, the hum, the chatter, the electronic pulse all fades into silence. Crowds gather outside locked bank doors, faces lit by the glow of dead screens. They look not for money, but for reassurance. Yet no one can give it. Liquidity was never cash. It was confidence. And when that confidence dies, the illusion of wealth dies with it. No cash, no credit, no connection. Money did not vanish. It just stopped moving. But in every collapse, something primal reawakens. The oldest economy of all. The panic fades into something quieter. Not peace, but exhaustion. The world takes its first uneasy breath without banks. In neighborhoods once ruled by screens and schedules, people begin to talk again. Not online, but face to face. What starts as confusion turns into adaptation. A farmer trades grain for medicine. A mechanic fixes a generator in exchange for food. Teachers tutor children for candles and fuel. The rhythm of life slows, but it doesn't stop. It rewires itself around what is real. The things once considered ordinary become powerful again. Seeds, tools, water, labour. Old skills return to the centre of value. The accountant's spreadsheet means nothing now, but the carpenter's hands can still build. The baker still feeds. The nurse still heals. Markets return, but they look different. Town squares fill with handmade signs listing trades. Fuel for bread. Repairs for eggs. Where stock tickers once glowed, chalkboards now record the exchange of goods. Parallel economies emerge from the ruins. Digital barter circles rise from encrypted networks. Cryptocurrencies attempt to rebuild invisible trust, but most people turn local to what they can touch and see. Governments announce new emergency credits, printed with urgency and hope, but without banks to move them, they become little more than paper promises. Power changes hands. Institutions fade into the background, replaced by individuals who hold something tangible. The farmer with food, the builder with tools, the medic with supplies, these are the new centres of stability. Progress has reset to survival, but in rebuilding trust, humanity rediscovers the truth about money and about itself. The world has changed, but something deeper begins to surface beneath the new order. People realized that the collapse of banks was not only the loss of money, it was the loss of something far older, the story that gave money its meaning. Banks were never just vaults or ledgers. They were mirrors, reflecting what people feared and what they desired most. Security, predictability, a shared belief that tomorrow would look like today. Every deposit, every loan, every transaction was not about numbers, but about faith. A silent agreement that the world would keep turning. Without banks, that faith dissolves. The system of belief that once connected billions now lies exposed. What vanished was not only currency, but confidence. Without that story, value itself becomes a question with no answer. History has seen this before. The Medici built their empire on trust and watched it crumble when faith turned to doubt. The Weimar Republic printed itself into oblivion, proving that money cannot survive without restraint. In 2008, screens replaced vaults, but the collapse was the same. Liquidity vanished and fear filled the vacuum. Different ages, same mistake. The illusion that control could replace discipline, and yet even now humanity begins to rebuild. Quietly, instinctively, the same pattern forms again. A new kind of bank, born not from vaults but from data. Not from coins but from confidence. Because as long as people seek certainty, they will always recreate what they destroyed. Banks were never about money, they were about memory, and like every empire built on faith, they will rise again. Rebranded, but not reborn. Every story of money follows the same rhythm. Trust creates value. Value creates ambition. Ambition becomes excess. Then comes the collapse, followed by rebirth. It has always been this way, because money is not born from metal or paper. It is born from belief. When banks rise, they rise on trust. When they fall on doubt. Control of money has always been control of faith. The ability to shape what billions of people believe is worth something and what is not. Every crisis reveals the same truth. We are not ruled by systems, we are ruled by stories. The end of banking would not be the end of money, it would be the end of one version of belief, and belief always finds a new form. From gold to paper, from ledgers to code, we reinvent the same faith under different names. The challenge is not to end banks or to replace them. It is to understand the fragile trust that sustains them, because without that understanding, every future system will repeat the same mistakes under a new design. Money is not the problem. Trust is. And every civilization learns that lesson only after forgetting it. If this gave you a new perspective, don't just scroll away, hit subscribe. This is Economic Chronicles, where history exposes the present and the future is written in the lessons we refuse to learn.